Hello there, YouTube. It is your boy, Abither, back with another kicking graphic novel review. Today we are reviewing Ant-Man Volume 4, The Splinter Species. Did I say Ant-Man? Animal Man Volume 4, Splinter Species. I keep doing that. Don't ask me why. I think it's because I listed a bunch of Ant-Man figures for sale on eBay and put some in my physical store. I think that's why. I just did that, and then I started doing all these reviews, so I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I keep doing it. Anyway, this is volume 4 of the 5-volume run. I have reviewed the other 3 that come before it, but let me read you the back of the book here. Buddy Baker has lost everything. As Animal Man, Buddy Baker channels the power of the life force called the Red to protect all life on Earth, but fighting for the Red cost him the love of his life, and the life of his son. Abandoned by his wife and daughter, grieving the loss of his child, failed by the totems who gave him his power, but he wants nothing more than to be left alone. Instead, he unwillingly becomes the most famous man in America when his indie superhero film earns him a Best Actor nomination, but he finds himself battling paparazzi and internet critics more often than villains. But vicious predators are about to invade the Red. Perversions of both science and sorcery threaten to drain every drop of power, not just from Buddy, but from his daughter as well. There's a new species at the top of the food chain. An animal man must evolve, or die. Jeff Lemire from Justice League Dark and Sweet Tooth, and a pack of comics' greatest talents, including Steve Puh from Hellblazer, Travel Foreman from The Immortal Iron Fist, Francis Portela from Legion of Superheroes, and John Paul Leon from Earth X, present a whole new breed of terror in Animal Man Splinter Species. Collects Animal Man 20 through 23 and Animal Man Annual number 2. Alright, so this Animal Man run is actually pretty great, very underrated book from not just the New 52, but from DC Comics in general. So Buddy Baker has lost his son. His son died saving his life, which kind of makes it even worse. Murdered by one of Arcane's kin. And there's like all this weird paparazzi gossip and conspiracy stuff, because a lot of people think that his son isn't even dead. They think it's a publicity stunt for his film that came out, which is what a horrible thing to do. And then there's some people who are like, was he even married? Was that even his kid? Blah, blah, blah. And the paparazzi are constantly hounding him, asking horrible questions. He's like having breakdowns in public because of these people. You know, we're getting flashbacks to the past, to just sweet moments he had with his son, and about like the birth of his kid. And there was this one time where he fought this spider villain who wasn't really a villain. She like eats dreams, and she was putting people in her web and like putting them in a coma in the web so that she and her children could eat their dreams. And his son is one of the people that was abducted, but he saved him, and it was all fine. And the spider like queen lady was actually pretty reasonable. She was like, oh, we're like psychic spider creatures. You know, we eat dreams. My kids need dreams to feed on. And Animal Man was like, I understand that like predation is nature and stuff, but you know, you're a sentient being. We're sentient beings, or sapient, I guess might be more accurate. Can't you just like feed on the dreams of animals instead and not people? How would you like it if someone took one of your kids like you've taken mine? And she was like, you know what? That's actually a good point. That's a good point. I wouldn't want someone to do this to one of my children. Maybe you're right, Animal Man. I'll go somewhere where I can live peacefully with my children, and we will just feast off the dreams of animals. Okie dokie. We'll go do that. Pretty crazy. And I did mention in a previous review that there actually is a portion of this comic that is just a comic version of the film that Animal Man starred in, and it's actually really good. Like I said, I would read it as its own comic. And there's actually more of the story of the film in this book. and it was still really enjoyable. And I think it was really cool. It had a really satisfactory ending, and it almost has this weird mirroring to Animal Man's own real life. Very cool. Very fantastic. I can see why he got a nomination. A lot of it probably is because of the buzz around his child dying, I hate to say. But then there's like a lot of pages that are just internet comments, and some are like horrible trolls and stuff. But some of them are very supportive as well. A lot of weird conspiracy theories. And his agent is like, look, you need to get like back to work. We'll find you new acting roles. A lot of people, work can help distract them from the loss, which is true. And Animal Man's like, you're right, I should get back to work. But the work he gets back to is crime fighting. And he puts on this jacket over his outfit, which he hasn't been wearing really most of this run, but it's a good look. And, Animal Man's wife, who he's now separated from, doesn't let her daughter go into the red. She's not allowed to explore her powers. She's not allowed to use her powers. So she's kind of hiding the cat, because there's the cat that came out of the red, and like this talking cat that was guiding them throughout the whole Rot World saga. And that cat can't go back to the red. That was like the consequence of leaving, that the cat couldn't return. So she's like hiding the cat in her bedroom, and every night they go into the red, and she like learns how to use her powers. And as stated before, the red takes the shape of whatever the Avatar kind of wants it to take the shape of, but it's an unconscious change. So since the Avatar is a 4-year-old girl, it takes the shapes of things that 4-year-old girls like Maxine are into. It takes the shape of like this kind of fairy princess kingdom, and it's honestly a good look for the red. I'm not gonna lie. It's very fun. It's very, very fun. And I like the way people are drawn in this book. Like, a lot of people have more realistic proportions and stuff. It's very interesting. Not everyone is like a supermodel in this volume of Ant-Man, which is very cool. I think that's interesting. It also has one of the greatest comic panels of all time. I said Ant-Man again, didn't I? With Animal Man flying with a cat toy in his hand over the city, and there's like a big image of a cat behind him. Pretty crazy. A lot of great panels, a lot of great artwork, very interesting paneling, coupled with like these social media comments about Ant-Man plastered on the panels. It's very cool. So Maxine wants to bring her brother back to life because she's used her powers to heal and stuff before, and also to kind of bring herself back to life. Like the same way Swamp Thing, the Avatar of the Green, can hop his consciousness and jump from plant to plant and grow himself new bodies, she can do that with animals for herself, but she wants to grow her brother a new body. And she can make him a body, but there's no soul to go into it. That's kind of the issue. But meanwhile, Animal Man is fighting these like beast people. It's very like Island of Dr. Moreau, Carnival of Souls-y kind of stuff. These people who are like animal activists have ironically and hypocritically been abducting animals and grafting animal parts onto their bodies to kind of try to force themselves to become part of the red, even though all humans are already part of the red. They want a more Animal Man-like connection to it. And like the paparazzi are following him around, and they're like, oh, is this from a movie? Like there's a supervillain attacking, and the paparazzi like are just, they don't even think it's real. Some of them are now accusing Ant-Man of not being a superhero at all, of faking being a superhero for his acting career. Insane stuff. Like they're watching him bleed out while fighting these people. They watch him shapeshift and stuff, and then they're still like, no, this is fake. God. And that probably would happen in real life too. That's the like extra screwed up thing. But it turns out that these weird animal cultist people actually work for Brother Blood, who's better known, I feel like, as a Teen Titans villain because of like Judas Contract and all that stuff, Pretty wild. But also I do want to mention one moment. So you know how kids, like when they get scared at night, will come like sleep in their parents' bed like really little kids? There's kind of a swap on that. Because, Maxine's mom gets scared at night. She has horrible dreams about like her son dying and stuff, and comes to share a bed with her daughter, which is an interesting flip on that. But it's very odd because earlier in this volume, we're kind of told that she doesn't know the cat totem is there, and that Maxine has to hide the cat. But then at this point in the book, she comes into the bedroom and the cat totem is just there and like talks to her, and she's totally okay with it and acts like she knew they were there the whole time. So that's kind of a little bit of a crouch and downward ire right there. Not wonderful. But Brother Blood ends up drinking Animal Man's blood, giving him a connection to the red and kind of forcing himself into being the new Avatar. So Maxine was searching for her brother's soul in the red before it gets reincarnated. He was on the way to reincarnation, which you can do through the red. Not every soul gets reincarnated, but it seems like her brother was probably headed for reincarnation. And once he's reincarnated, she can't put his soul back in the body. She won't even be able to find it. But Brother Blood kind of enters the red and starts stealing the powers of Animal Man and Maxine. I believe is calling herself Animal Girl. And it turns out one of the totems in the Parliament of Limbs actually was helping Brother Blood, because he's mad at Ant-Man and stuff. And they were like, remember earlier in this run, all these totems were like, there has to be a balance between the red, the rot, and the green. They all have to be at kind of equal power and whatnot. But now, this one totem, the one that's kind of been a jerk to Buddy Baker this whole time, now he is like, yeah, I helped Brother Blood do this. Now it's time for the red to take over. And it's like, dude, you just got finished stopping the rot from doing this exact same thing, because when one of these parliaments tries to take over, if they do eventually take over, then that parliament will die off too. All three are needed. Animals and plants are needed to feed on each other, and the rot is needed in order to put animals and plants back into the circle of life when they die. All three need each other to survive. We've seen that in even as far back as Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, which is where like the green and the red and stuff all came from. I believe he's the one that instituted all that. We will be reviewing that run as well. Volume 1 will be a pretty soon review, I'm sure. But because Jason Woodrow in the Alan Moore run tries to kill off all the animals, and Swamp Thing shows up and is like, hey, genius, if you kill off all the animals, who's going to pollinate the flowers? Idiot. Who is going to breathe carbon dioxide into the atmosphere so that we can breathe it and create oxygen? Who's going to do that, genius? Who's going to spread our seeds around in their feces? And it's like, it's the same thing for the red. If they kill off the green, then what are the herbivores going to eat? And if all the herbivores die, what are the carnivores going to eat? It's just insane to me. They get so power hungry and forget their role. It's frustrating. It's like, dude, the rot just did this. And you kept trying to explain to Animal Man and Maxine why it was a bad thing. And then you immediately turn around and do it, you fucking hypocrite. It's such a good book. Oh my god, it's such a good book. But I do want to mention one part where Animal Man actually goes back to that Spider Queen, and he's like, I need to see my son's dream. The dream of my son that you and your kind absorbed. I need it. And she gives it to him. She like pities him because he's like, I lost my child. And she's like, oh no, I can't imagine how I would feel if I lost one of my kids. And she gives him the dream, and it's like a beautiful dream of him and his son flying together, because his son loves to fly with him. God, what a great book. When the New 52 happened, everyone should have been reading Animal Man. And I maintain that. We all should have been reading Animal Man. When the New 52 came out, I was reading Batman and Swamp Thing and Justice League and the whole time, Animal Man is what I should have been reading. Like, yeah, Scott Snyder's Batman and Scott Snyder's Swamp Thing really stole the show when the New 52 dropped. But Animal Man should have been right up there with them. It's almost weird to me that this book wasn't more popular, because Scott Snyder's Swamp Thing was having its praises sung all over, and this connects directly to it. The first 3 volumes of Animal Man run alongside the entire Scott Snyder Swamp Thing run, and they're fighting like the same force, and at the end they cross over and team up to defeat the Rot, but people just weren't reading Animal Man? I guess when they were reading Swamp Thing, they just kind of read the Animal Man tie-ins towards the end of Rot World and didn't read all of Animal Man. This book was so good. And it doesn't get enough credit. Like, yeah, it suffers from a little bit of that continuity stuff that the entirety of the New 52 suffers from. Because, like, we don't know what Animal Man stuff is and isn't in continuity. It seems like Animal Man's conversation with Grant Morrison is in continuity, but we don't know if anything else from that run is 100% in continuity. But that conversation is, because they mention it in this book. But also, just within this own volume, we have a continuity problem just within the own story, which is they say the mom doesn't know about the cat and doesn't want it around, but then the mom walks in the room, sees the cat, and everyone acts like she knew the cat was there the whole time. That was odd. And then I believe in the last volume, there's an image of Jason Woodrow as the Floronic Man, even though Jason Woodrow hasn't been the Floronic Man according to the Swamp Thing books. According to Swamp Thing Volume 5, he hasn't been the Floronic Man yet. And we did recently review Swamp Thing Volume 5, and I talked about that in this, but it shows a picture of who seems to be Jason Woodrow with Poison Ivy. So, like, what's going on? I know that Rot World skips a year into the future, and a lot could happen, but when the Rot was taking over, the Green wouldn't have been strong enough to make him into this, like they did in Volume 5 of New 52 Swamp Thing, when they made him a Swamp Thing. So did something else make him the Floronic Man? I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the with that image of the Floronic Man that I think was in the last volume. So we've got that little continuity stuff that the New 52 was just fucked with continuity. But it's a great book. And if you love DC Comics, definitely read Animal Man. It's very different from other DC books, especially of the time. And it's got darker themes, yeah. In the New 52, a lot of the books were known for being needlessly dark. Like, a lot of books should have been happier. Like, yeah, it makes sense for Batman to be dark. It makes sense for Swamp Thing to be dark. And it really does make sense for Animal Man to be dark, you know? He has his family that grounds him. And it's dark, but it's not so dark that it takes you out of it. And there is a meaning behind the darkness. A lot of books were just dark to be dark, you know? They were dark because the Dark Knight movie was dark. And they thought that's just what people wanted. But yeah, the dark themes in The Dark Knight were like well fleshed out, and there was meaning behind them. And Animal Man's dark themes are well fleshed out, and there's meaning behind them. So definitely check out this Animal Man run. I don't currently have the last volume, which is volume 5, but I do plan on getting it soon. So that is it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I'll be seeing you all next time. Bye for now.